let's get this over with. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. Space Jam was definitely a thing in the 1990s, but it's hardly a project that anyone would refer to as high art. While the combination of live action mixed with animation had already been done before with pictures like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Space Jam is mostly remembered for its shameless mixing of celebrities and sports cameos with the Looney Tunes and a heavy dosing of product placement. It also had Bill Murray, and honestly, that guy just makes everything better. Because 2021 has been a raging disappointment so far, and everyone in Hollywood has run out of ideas, what better time for the absolute chunk nuts at Warner Brothers to release a half-assed sequel to Space Jam that lacks even a basic understanding of what people liked about the original. In addition to sucking, the movie wastes the Looney Tunes, contains zero compelling cameos, and could not even be bothered to get Michael Jordan, the basketball player, and Bill Murray, the actor, to show up and participate. In his defense, Michael Jordan has more money than God, so I don't fault him for doing literally anything else with his time. If actual movie director Wes Anderson can coax Bill Murray into appearing for a movie for 14.7 seconds, you would think that a big budget studio like WB could set aside some of the $150 million budget allocated to this piece of garbage to get him onto a plane and fly to California and sit on a movie set for a few weeks. Before I spend the remainder of what will be a mercifully short review dumping on this lame junk, I will say one good thing about the movie. Bugs Bunny made me laugh 2 or 3 times. That's it. That's the only positive thing I have to say about Space Jam: A New Legacy. The film starts off in the present day with Warner Brothers explaining to us, the audience, how millionaire superstar LeBron James is the greatest person in the history of everything, and then shows us his gargantuan Los Angeles mansion that costs tens of millions of dollars. While this probably isn't his actual home, I can guarantee you that it's not all that far off from reality. The LeBron James show continues with his talented basketball offspring playing basketball. The audience immediately discovers that one of his kids enjoys video game programming more than hoops, and Dad of the Year nominee LeBron James doesn't care and wants his kid to play basketball instead. LeBron and his kid both end up being sucked into a virtual world where an evil Don Cheadle pits father against son in a basketball game that will determine the fate of the world, or something. I don't really have any problems with the plot, if that's what you want to call it, but I'm going to spend the remainder of this video listing off things I do have a problem with. The budget to quality ratio here is atrocious. Yeah, I mean, you spend $150 million on an animated movie, it should produce a decent return on investment, and it just doesn't. This movie has one notable cameo that serves as a giant inflatable middle finger to the audience. Yeah, you'll know it when you see it. I don't really understand who this movie is for. Are kids going to actually enjoy this thing? There's nothing here for adults to like, and if this is what passes for children's entertainment in 2021, then we're raising a generation of morons. The Looney Tunes are a wasted opportunity. Yeah, that's fact check true. Warner Brothers sucks at everything and should be completely embarrassed. Yeah, I mean, Space Jam: A New Legacy is essentially a 2-hour commercial for the properties that Warner Brothers hasn't run into the ground, and a reminder of all the things they destroyed. DC characters are directly referenced. You got like Mr. Freeze and the Penguin and the Joker and Two-Face in the audience at the basketball game, and it just, all it does is tell you that Warner Brothers owns the IP for all of these. LeBron James is injected into Mad Max Fury Road. Hogwarts makes an appearance, and every single natural law is violated when the John Williams score is allowed to play. Whoever approved that last one, they probably belong in prison. The original Space Jam had actual basketball players in it, like real basketball players. This movie has a few recognizable names, but they're just buried under CGI. Damian Lillard and Anthony Davis are there, but who cares? This movie is 1 hour and 55 minutes long, which is like 30 minutes more than it should be. I actually took a nap about halfway through, and when I woke up, I considered just not watching the rest of it. So now that I'm done with my list, I'm gonna wrap this thing up, and if you call yourself a LeBron James fan, you should probably turn this off and not watch or listen to the rest of it. LeBron James is one of the most self-righteous, stuck-up, and hypocritical athletes in the history of sports. He has complained non-stop about how oppressed he is and how hard he has it. Spare me. You are in the 1% of the wealthiest people on planet Earth, and a liar and a fraud. You are a colossal blowhard who refused to condemn the Chinese Communist Party when they were boarding up Chinese citizens in their homes in 2020. You also defended the CCP while they were beating up dissidents in the streets of Hong Kong. You became a millionaire by siphoning money from Chinese markets and did not hesitate to publicly and loudly defend a tyrannical regime. Space Jam: A New Legacy is vapid, pathetic trash, and the perfect representation of who LeBron James really is. This is far and away the worst movie of 2021. But it's still early. Warner Brothers is ultimately at fault for greenlighting this disaster and should be ashamed of the final product. They had a great opportunity to create a self-referential and hilarious world, but chose to instead remind us all how awful they are when it comes to stewarding lucrative properties. In their defense, they do own HBO, which gave us season 1 of True Detective. Thank you so much for checking out the review. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please consider subscribing. You can also like and share the video since that tells YouTube it's worth promoting. Sound off down in the comments, tell me that LeBron James deserves a Best Actor Oscar nomination, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.